Don't be afraid to move your client's head around. We're going to be giving her a nice little shape. She gets her brows shaped regularly, but it's been a minute because the last time she had them done, again, they were done too thin. So that's okay. We're going to clean them up, and if there are areas that need to grow in, well, we'll leave those areas alone. We'll let those hairs grow in, but we're not going to leave it looking messy. We're still going to give her a nice shape. So I'm going to get a little bit of our astringent on the tissue or aesthetic wipe, and you're going to clean the brow area. Okay? Make sure you're thorough with your cleansing, above and below the brow, on top and underneath the hairs. Done that, then we're going to brush the brows, and we're going to see the way they want to naturally lay. It's really important because we can't make the brows do something they don't want to do. You can put brow gel in them, so you can help to hold them whenever you're going to do an event or go somewhere or go out. But for the most part, you still need to follow with the natural flow of her hair. Okay, now trimming. When we trim, there are two sections of the brow, the body of the brow up to the arch and the arch down to the tail. And then you follow with the direction that the hairs are growing. So typically with the body of the brow, you would brush the brows in an upward direction. When you brush them in an upward direction, whatever hairs are long are going to stick out way above the body of the brow, and that is where you're going to go with the scissors and you're going to trim off that excess length. Okay? And this is going to help to clean them up and create your fine-tuned edge. Don't ever brush up and hold it up and then just cut it all the way through, because then you're going to cut them way too short. And that looks good already. Then when we get past the arch down to the tail, we're going to brush in a downward direction. Same concept. When we brush in a downward direction, we come back up and we trim off the excess length right there at the tail up towards the arch. Again, not brushing downward and holding the hair downward, because then we're going to overdo it. Okay. Now, while I'm trimming and shaping, I'm observing, and I'm looking at the natural shape of her brows. I'm also going to measure the general guidelines for where her brows lay. So the beginning of the brow should come up from the inner corner of the eye up, and that's where the start of the brow should be. You're going to draw a diagonal line from the fold of the nose out to the outer corner of the eye, and that's the general guideline for where the end of the brow should be. Have your clients open their eyes and look straight ahead, and then you're going to draw a diagonal line from the fold of the nose to the outer corner of the iris, and that is where the general guideline for her arch should be. Notice that I always use the term general guidelines because they are general guidelines. That's what we want to typically follow by, but if her eyes were wide set, then we'd want to change the aspect of the beginning of the brow to offset them being too wide. Or if their eyes were too close together, then we would make the brows, the beginning of the brow, space further apart to help to offset that feature. Okay? And then there are other corrections as well. Okay, so we've cleansed the area. Depending on the type of wax that you use, you always want to check with your manufacturer's directions. Some waxes require that you put down a powder on the skin, and this is for moisture absorbing, and it also does create a little nice protective layer on the skin which keeps the wax from completely adhering to the skin. Remember, we just want to remove hair, we don't want to remove her skin. And it doesn't have to be a large gop of powder, it just needs to be a nice thin semi-translucent layer on the skin. Some waxes don't require a powder, they just require that the skin be dry. Some waxes require a prepping oil on the skin prior to. Always just check with the company and their directions. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do, I've already tested the wax and the temperature, so I know that it's good. I've even turned it down a little bit. Managing the wax on the applicator, I'm going to start with the middle and the beginning portion of the brow. Okay. While you're creating the start of the brow, you want to also keep in mind what type of shape you're trying to create, because some people look, depending on the shape of their face, they look better with a rounded beginning of the brow, and then some people need more of a sharp edge. And some people just like that look. Alright, after you've applied the wax, you can go back and apply your strip. Notice I've done the whole inner portion of the brow. I can do it half and half. I don't have to pull up everything at the same time. It's not really about speed as much as it's about quick efficiency, if that makes sense. Okay. Notice that I pulled up a couple times. Just any excess little wax you can go back and pull up. And then if they have any remaining residue wax on their skin, well, after we're done, we'll use a little massage oil to clean that up, and then we'll aloe it as well to give it nice and calm and cool. Okay. Now, every client that I've ever done brows, again, will say, give me an arch, but don't make them too thin. So, I follow the natural guidelines of the hair. What the body is already saying, the brow is already saying, I'm nice and thick and I want to be that way. So I apply the wax along the base of the brow on top of the hairs that clearly do not belong. Now, another thing with estheticians is they like to, again, be very quick with the procedure. So they'll smooth the wax all along the entire body of the brow from beginning to end, and then they will pull, and then it's like kind of like a magic trick. You know, rip the strip up and see what you got, okay? I don't really like that method. I like to be a little more controlled with my shaping, especially if I am shaping. So I do about 4 sections on the brow, 2 across the bottom and 2 across the top, and then just 1 in the middle. Okay? That gives me full control over the shape of the brow, and there's no guesswork. Now again, you can work as quickly and efficiently as you can. You don't have to just work quick, because it's not about that. Notice that I'm placing my finger down on the skin after I pull the strip. That is a confusing technique for the brain. Okay, we're kind of like turning off the neurons, because when you pull that strip, it starts to send that pain signal to the brain. So the brain's like, oh my God, pain. But if we place pressure there very quickly, then instead of sending a pain signal immediately after, it gets a pressure signal. So then the brain actually has to switch gears, and so it has to start to focus on the pain, on the pressure instead of the pain. Same thing with the top of the brow, working across the top, up to the arch, from the body up to the arch. Now, a lot of people say, you know, you've got books out there and artists and people that want to say, oh my God, don't ever wax the top of the brows. It makes the brows look so unnatural or fake or whatever. You know, again, it's a general guideline, because some people enjoy having that defined shape. So if you have a client that wants definition and they want their brows to be nice and bold, then you want to wax all around the brow. Even if you don't remove hair, you don't have to remove dark hair. You just can remove little small, what we call vellus hair, which is that real fine peach fuzz. And just by erasing the peach fuzz, or the vellus hair, then what that does is it erases the light reflecting little hairs. They don't have pigment, but they do reflect light, so they distract from the shape of the brow. Stay close to the brow though, because you don't want to wax. We're not trying to create new hairlines. Okay. Now always when you're done with the area, go back, look at any areas that if you need to tweeze, you're more than welcome to tweeze. But one little message about tweezing: tweeze quickly and efficiently, and use pressure to again distract the brain. If you just leave the skin unpulled and you pull with the tweezer, it's going to lift the skin and it's going to damage the hair follicle. At every point that you're going to tweeze, use your other two fingers, pull the skin taut, and then tweeze, okay? And that's going to create that pressure. Yes, they'll still feel a little bit of that pain, or they might feel a little twinge, but it won't be nearly as painful as just without, okay? Isn't that a nice, fantastic brow? All right, let's make the other one to match. From the arch down to the tail. Careful with your angles, because a lot of people go at the wrong angle when they're coming down from the arch down to the tail, and they actually chop off the end of the tail. Don't do that. That's why we pre-measured at the beginning of every brow session. Some estheticians decide that they can skip this step. You'd be surprised at where the general guidelines will guide you depending on the size and structure of each client's face, because every person's different. Alright, across the top. Again, not focusing on any terminal hair, and by terminal I mean hair that has pigment and color, just vellus hair. And for those on YouTube wondering, no, I'm not double dipping my stick, because that is extremely unsanitary. And it's illegal here in the state of Georgia. So even if I wanted to, I'm going to stick to my standards. I like my license. Alright, again, any additional wax residue on the skin, you can just press and flick it right up. Comes off quite easily. Alright, last and final observations. I'm going to brush the brows, take a look at them, compare them. See if there's any that I need to remove, any additional ones that are in the way or don't belong. Remember to stretch the skin, pull it taut, and tweeze. And so then we'll just cool them off with the aloe. Aloe, again, very soothing, cooling, calming to the skin. So I'm just going to paint it right on. You don't have to gob it on, but a nice thin layer feels great. The brows are saying, ooh, ah. Now another little thing that I like to do as a professional esthetician is to use the aloe and the wet brows to my advantage, because we all in this culture love that picture-perfect look. So while the brows are still a little damp with the aloe, I'll go ahead and take my brow brush and I will brush them and paint them right into the shape and position that I want them. So it's kind of like having my own little brow gel without putting a brow gel on them. I wouldn't recommend putting on a brow gel necessarily immediately after a waxing service, because now we've got this freshly waxed skin that's nice and sensitive. So we don't want to put any type of extra chemicals or anything that could possibly irritate them, okay? So then now she's nice and cool, calm, and collected, okay? I'm going to turn your head to the right. I'm going to say hi, YouTube.
Hi, YouTube.
All right. Fabulous brows. Everybody like her brows? They look good? Yay. All right. Thank you, guys.